Good luck po mga moms.
Thank you, Mars.
Magandang gabi mga ka-nature! Good evening! Isa na naman pong episode ng I Know Right, Nature Matters. Ako po ulit si Jen, ang inyong host para sa episode 3 ng ating I Know Right. Una-una magandang gabi po sa ating lahat, and we are an FB Live show that discusses the burning environmental issues of the day and what ordinary citizens can do about them. I Know Right is brought to you by SOS-Yamang Bayan Network and the Legal Rights and Natural Resources Center. Okay, I believe there's no sound. How about now? Is everything okay? Now, tonight, we are going to talk about women and mining. And like what we did before, you can write all your questions in the comment section of our FB page. And I would like to also invite all our audience, those who's watching us, mga ka-nature, sign the petition for the passage of the Alternative Minerals Management Bill, yung AMBB. Pakiclick lang po ang sign up section ng aming FB page. So it will only take a second of your time. So like what I said a while ago, today's episode is Women and Mining, mga kababaihan, mga ka-nature. Our natural resources, land, water, forest, are in deep stress. All over the world, but especially in the global south, natural resources are being utilized relentlessly in a highly competitive, extractive, and commercialized way by corporations. One of the dire results from extractive and destructive industrial activities is the loss of food sources, which rural and indigenous communities are heavily reliant upon for survival. Food crisis is heavily felt among the communities. Safe, accessible, and healthy food are now becoming less and less available to them. As communities struggle to protect natural resources and the land that they are rooted in and the water they live on, the women take on the role of defenders. Rural and indigenous women are at the forefront of these struggles as they defend their way of life, their livelihood, their food sources, and their lives. Women are made targets of threats and violence from corporations whose main interest is to commodify natural resources for profit. Cheryl Polutan, our guest for tonight, will share women-led struggles against mining operations, as well as inspiring stories of solidarity amongst women environmental human rights defenders. So let's get to know who Che is. Che became one of the pioneer sisters of LILAK in 2013. LILAK is a collective of feminists, women's rights activists, human rights advocates, and indigenous women who are working together in solidarity with the struggle of indigenous women. LILAK provides platform for indigenous women, human rights defenders to develop their leadership capacity and enhance critical tools for analysis and skills in their struggles on land and natural resources. Che handles LILAK capacity Development Program and leads its task for Women and Mining Working Group of Alianza Tigil Mina. Mga ka-nature, let's listen and welcome Miss Che. Magandang gabi, Miss Che.
Magandang gabi din. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Medyo umuulan dito eh.
Ay, naku, isang maulan na gabi sa'yo, ma'am.
Magandang gabi.
Apo. So you can have the floor po, ma'am. You can educate us, explain to us your topic for tonight. Very interesting. Women in mining, and I can see na ikaw ay naka-lilak.
Naka-lilak shirt.
Yes.
Okay, good evening mga ka-nature, ganyan. So, first of all, thank you very much for giving us the platform to really talk about the plight of women, the situation of women in the context of mining. Let me start by saying siguro, no, kasi sinabi na ni Jen kanina, how mining and extractive industry have actually impacted so many communities, most especially in the rural and indigenous communities where most of the mining operations are. In the previous episodes of I Know, right? There were already some colleagues who already discussed about mining, its environmental impact, its social impacts. But for tonight, I will be more focusing on its impact to women. So let me just start by saying that women actually play a critical role in managing natural resources, um, both in the family and in the community level. So therefore, they will be affected and impacted mostly if there are cases of environmental degradation. And this is because feminization of care is actually deeply entrenched in our culture. So, women, not only here in the Philippines, but globally, are, you know, automatically assigned to do the caring and nurturing of the family and the community. So, therefore, nagiging automatic then for them to manage water sources, for fuel, food, and for Indigenous women, where LILAK, my organization, is working with, lalo din, kasama din doon yung management of forests and agricultural terrain. So, let us all imagine, no, these women who have this very close relationship with nature. Parang jowa ng babae ang nature, especially when we talk about indigenous and rural women. Napaka-importante sa kanila ng natural resources. And imagine if an environment extractive and destructive industry like mining would come into their communities and would destroy and deplete their natural resources. So, pag nawala ang tubig, sino ang makaka-feel ng impact? It's the women. Um, in some of the learning sessions of LILAC, we usually do learning sessions, discussions with Indigenous women in the communities. There's this one interesting activity that we usually do. We ask them to write down all daily activities that has something to do with water. So ano yung mga bagay na ginagawa nila from the moment they wake up until the last hour na natulog sila. Lahat ng bagay na naaalala nila that has something to do with water. And even them, they be surprised na parang, grabe pala yung aming relasyon sa tubig. Mula sa kape, sa labas, sa tulo, sa paghuhugas, pagluluto, lahat. And so, if you could imagine if a mining company would come into their community and then would dump toxic waste on their sources of water, they will be the first people in the community that would be greatly impacted. So, I can share, if I may share, my one moment. How do I do this? Okay. Jen, can you share my tawag dito, pictures, some pictures? Yeah, okay. So, as I was saying, no, if you would imagine, um, yeah, okay, let's go.
Let me know, ma'am, if it's the next slide, ha?
Yes, okay. So, this picture is actually a mining. You couldn't imagine, oh, this is a rice field, but there's a black sand mining happening in the middle of the rice field. So that's how ridiculous mining can go. Please, next slide. Yan. So this is just to for us to see, no, ano yung mga gawain ng mga kababayan. So this is what I was talking about. If you could imagine that this is happening in their community. So these are pictures of the communities where LILAC and as well as Alianza Tigil Mina are working. So there's a picture of the DPO. Etong may kalabaw, this is in Masbate. Beside it is a picture in Cantilan, and on the upper right corner is in MacArthur Leyte. So you could imagine this is a very clear example of how mining is destroying the environment. And as I was saying, if resources are depleted and destroyed in these communities, women would really feel the greatest impact. Next slide, please. So let's focus on water, no, as an example. So these are the immediate effects of mining to women. These are pictures of women in different communities. Actually, um, there are from Mongolia, and these hands are from the women in India, and then this old lady is from Masbate, as well as yung papo na, sorry sa mga ka-nature na baka kumakain. But these are examples and pictures of skin diseases na experience ng mga kababaihan in the communities because water toxics were dumped into their water. Next, please. So when women fight back, alam mo yon, yung when dahil nga sa kanilang close relationship with na- with nature, with the resources, marami sa mga kababaihan dahil sa kawalan, sa kahirapan, na walang tubig, walang lupa, nahihirapan na ng pagkukunan ng pagkain, ay they were encouraged to speak out, to speak up, and stand for their rights. In fact, at the very beginning, when we talk with our community women, with the indigenous and rural women we work with, ni hindi pa nga nila naisip noon na may kinalaman ito sa kanilang karapatan. It is just a knee-jerk response. If there's no more water, nasisira na ang mga pananim namin, parang ganon. And along the way, with working with them and them realizing that this is actually their human rights that is being violated at this point by this destructive, extractive industry. So they would really, that's why they stood up and they decided to do something about this issue. When women fight back, they would usually experience a lot of backlash. So, Jen, pwedeng face ko naman. Thank you. So, when women fight back, actually, they would normally, and most of them would really face a lot of backlash from in a different level. So let us discuss this, no, on a family level, because again, let's go back to what I have said earlier. And because of our patriarchal society and the feminization of care, women are expected to have they have the primary responsibility to ensure all the needs of the family. But if they would already start to speak up and join actions, mobilizations, they would start to organize themselves so that they can increase the number of women who could speak about the effects of mining to their lives and to their livelihoods. First and foremost, most of them would actually be criticized because some of them would really share stories about them accused of being bad mothers because they're always out of their houses. You always leave your daughters to other people or to relatives just because you go out and mobilize and then involve in a dialogue. For a woman who is really fighting not only for herself but for her family, for her children's future, and for the community, this is very hard. Given the multiple burden that they are already carrying, this is another mental and emotional baggage that they have to deal with. When families would really their actual who were supposed to be their support would actually judge them or would really ask them, question them, what are their priorities. Um, Sometimes, in worst cases, domestic violence can also happen out of this misunderstanding because women would, from the many things that they have to do on a daily basis, they would add another activity. They would allot time for campaigns against mining, then they would receive backlash from their families. Also, from their communities. Sometimes they would also be, especially most cultures where it is also very patriarchal, they would start to question why women would speak up. You're not supposed to be talking. You're a woman. You belong to the inside the house. You take care of your family first rather than speaking about or talking about rights, talking about representation and all of these things. Because if we go back to many researches and journals, you would really always read that women are not represented or misrepresented when we talk about development projects. So even if they would say no, because they would say, no, we do not want mining because it would affect our livelihoods, water, and all of these things. We don't see any benefits from mining. But since they are not represented in the decision making process, then they would really be represented. But then again, let's go back to what I have said. But they are the ones who are getting and receiving the greatest impacts of this extractive industry. So yeah, and then another thing also is that when women become empowered, they become more critical about mining projects and all of these things. So we've started with family, within the community. And another thing is also from the outside forces of the community. So this is where women would start to get security threats. We have a lot of women human rights and environmental rights defenders who at this very moment are experiencing threats to their lives. Like literally, they would be sent messages like, do you know about merong isang bala na naimbento na pag pumasok sa katawan mo, ang tawag dito, sasabog pa siya. So they would receive threats like that. Also, just like any other environmental human rights defenders, also women human rights defenders, we have partners who have been charged with slap suits, so libel, but for them, no, this is me. I am a mother, and I am telling you that many women in our community already left our community. They were forcibly um, they have to go out of their communities to find alternative livelihoods. So say for example, in one area, I'm sorry I cannot talk about it right now because there's a pending case on it with the women human rights defender. But it is a fishing village. So and also women would are shell gatherers. They would also help as fisher folks, and then because water is already toxic and there's no more that they can get from, wala nang shells, wala nang ganon, so they are forced to go out of their communities to work as house helpers, tindera sa mga malalaking syudad. So when one woman who represented her community and talk about all these environmental impacts, social impacts, and the effects of mining to their livelihood, kinasuhan siya ng isang mining company. At hindi lang yon, hindi pa natuwa ang mining company sa pagkaso sa kanya because she has this, meron kasi siyang isang maliit na employment, tinawagan ng kanyang employer telling them that she has a pending case. Eh maliit lang na negosyo yon, and you could imagine a corporation, a lawyer from the corporation calling this small business. So they would be threatened. So she's now left with nothing. Hindi siya pwedeng umuwi sa community kasi meron siyang threat. Hindi pwedeng umuwi sa community dahil walang livelihood. But outside of the community, there's nothing available for her because these corporations are hunting her down. So, yun yung mga security threats na nakikita natin with women environmental and human rights defenders. And also one thing is that if there will be no more livelihood available for women, and let us again remember that we as women, and especially indigenous and rural women, they are expected to provide food to their family. Pag tinatanong mo, walang pagkain, sinong unang hahanapin? Si nanay, si ate. So, and since there's no more available livelihood for them, wala din namang enough support for women. There's inadequate resources and support for skill development for women for as an alternative or for sustainable alternatives. There's nothing. So parang hindi mo na yung mga kababaihan na nakakausap namin, actually this is very timely. Just this morning I had a round of discussions with women from different mining affected communities na tapat talaga dito sa ating session today. So in fact, sa panahon ng COVID, akala ng buong mundo, stop operation lahat. Kasi nga, di ba, stay at home. But from these 10 indigenous and rural women that I've talked to this morning, they were like on top of their lungs saying, no, mining companies are in full operation in our communities. And as mothers and as women in the community, aside from the mining issues, we are very scared because we know how contagious this virus is. But in the mining areas, helicopters, na may mga helicopter daw na dumadating, patuloy pa rin ang pagdating ng mga barko sa kanilang mga community. So they don't understand now. Nasa kanino ba talaga panig ang mga kinauukulan sa komunidad. So these are the dynamics that's when we talk about mining and women's rights. And but then again, if I proceed, masyadong hindi din tayo mawalan ng puso or malulungkot. Oo, nakakalungkot, oo, nakakagalit, but in all of this, we should also acknowledge the power, the courage of these women, human rights and environmental rights defenders. Can we proceed to that slide, Jen? Balik tayo sa slide. So I can just show some pictures of women who are actually fighting back. Ito po ay isang picture ng mga young women na yung iba ay taga-community at iba ay mga kasama ko sa LILAK. I would like to would like to highlight that because these are young women who are already standing up for their rights against mining. So these are pictures of the different actions and mobilizations that were women-led. So this is one way of saying enough is enough, regardless of judgments from the community, from the family, from the defying patriarchal view that women should just stay in the house and let men manage all of these issues. But these women actually go beyond that. They stood up. They chose to go out of their houses and find platforms for them to be heard. So these are just examples of it. Iba-ibang creative way for them to voice to let their voices be heard. So iba-ibang lugar po 'yan. May etong nakahiga sa babae sa Sambales, yung sumasayaw ay tuwali sa Didipio. Etong babae na may dalang siyak san kababayhan ay sa Masbate. This is a silent protest actually, no? Nakaupo lang sila. So iba't ibang mga communities ito. Next. So one good thing about this that emerged about behind all of these false promises of development of mining at sa lahat ng impact ng mining sa women's rights, nahanap din ng mga kababaihan ang kalakasan the strength in numbers. So nakita nila ang kahalagahan ng pakikipag-ugnayan sa iba pang mga kababaihan na nararanasan din ang nararanasan nila sa araw-araw, na alam nila kung anong ibig sabihin ng iyak ng isang nanay na hirap na sa buhay. Kasi in Masbate, they would buy mineral water for their children na maligo. That's how toxic water is there. So, mineral water na ang pinapanligo, but si nanay, dahil konti lang ang pera, tinitiis yung tubig na toxic, kaya si nanay ang may galis. So, ganon. These are pictures of women in the Philippines who are, through the Alianza Tigol-Mina Women in Mining Working Group, we've tried to connect and link women from both rural and indigenous women from mining affected communities. So from LILAK, we provide platforms for them to listen to each other's stories, magbigayan ng tips na ng paano ba ang mga effective na mga strategies na ginawa nila on actions and mobilizations. But not only that, even on discussions on livelihood, what are alternative livelihoods that they can teach each other for them to survive. Iba din po ako personally at kasama ng mga kasama ko sa LILAK, kakaibang lakas ang nakukuha din namin as solidarity organization sa mga kababaihan. Dahil you cannot imagine the hardships that they're going through on a daily basis, but then they still find strength with each other. Parang minsan nakakahiya for us dahil tayo galit na galit, hopeless na hopeless. But then kapag nagsasama-sama sila, nakikita nila, uy, hindi, basta magkasama lang tayo at patuloy lang nating ipaglaban to. Just knowing that someone is with me and believes in me, and even if the whole world and even if the companies are slapping me with all these cases, but you, my sisters from other communities, believe in me. So yun. Next po. So this next slide. So this is not just this solidarity, the sisterhood that has been built with women from mining affected communities. Hindi lang siya local. So let me just share some regional solidarity networks that we have built. So this one is the Women in Action Against Mining in Asia. So these are from different countries in Asia, so South and Southeast Asia. So they were able to listen. So ang isang nare-realize nila, kahit magkaiba tayo ng lingwahe, magkaiba tayo ng kultura, magkaiba tayo ng lugar, hindi nga sila nagkakaintindihan, pero sa puso nararamdaman nila kung gaano kabigat at doon sila nagkakaintindihan sa impact ng mining sa kanila bilang mga kababaihan. Another solidarity organization, next slide, and this would be the last slide, is the Resistors Dialogue. This is also a solidarity group in Asia where we link the women in the Philippines who are affected by mining to other women also from other parts of Asia who are confronted with resource issues. So yung WAMA ay exclusively mga mining affected communities. Dito sa Resistors Dialogue, iba-iba pero included pa din ng mining. So I think sana may na-share ako on this small time, no? So for us to better understand how women are differently impacted by mining. So again, let me just reiterate on that kasi oo, pag sinabi nating mining, may economic, may social, environmental impacts, but when we look at it on a gender lens and when we look at it on a women's perspective, may mga bagay po na iba ang nakikita ng kababaihan dahil iba din ang nagiging impact nito sa kanila bilang mga kababaihan sa komunidad na may kinakaharap na minahan. Yun muna. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Miss Che. Napakadami po namin natunan at makulay ang experience ninyo about women and mining. Mamaya marami po akong itatanong pero bilang nabanggit ko na, kung may mga katanungan po tayo para kay Miss Che sa kanyang discussion, napakagandang discussion, huwag po kayong mahiya na isulat dito sa comment section ng aming FB page, SOS-Yamang Bayan Network. At kung meron din po kayong konting oras na mas spare, pwede po nating pirmahan ang aming petition for the passage of the Alternative Mineral Management Bill. Doon lang po sa may sign-up section, sign-up button na aming FB page. Ngayon po, pupunta naman po tayo sa pangalawang yugto ng ating I Know Right episode 3. After po na mag-discuss ni Miss Che ng napakaganda niya experience about women in mining, meron po tayong dalawang kababaihan din na magbabasa ng kanilang mga thesis para sa inyong lahat ngayong gabi. Here on I Know Right, we believe that poetry, which has been described as the language that commands attention, has the power to move people into action. Our first poet is Miss Nerisa del Carmen Guevara. Nerisa is an associate professor at the University of Santo Tomas, where she teaches creative writing and is a resident fellow of the Center for Creative Writing and Literary Studies. She is the author of Reaching Destinations, Poems and Search for Home, published by USC Publishing House. in 2004. She was the recipient of the Carlos Palanca Award for Poetry in 1999. Her poetry has been featured in various international publications and anthologies, including Cha Asian Journal in Hong Kong 2018, the Achieve of, the Mastery, Filipino Poetry and Verse from English Mid-90s to 2016, Manila 2018, the Comstock Review, New York 2018, Tomas Journal, Manila 2018 and 19, and Voice and Verse Poetry Magazine in Hong Kong 2020. Her performance in art has been exhibited worldwide in Performatura, SIPA, or the International Art Festival Philippines. Bayan, this one I'm not really sure if I could pronounce it correctly, but let's try. Biennale Yogya Equator 5, Indonesia, Lapsody in Helsinki, and the Grace Exhibition Space in New York, among others. Her performance pieces, Elegies and Infinite Gestures, are currently archived in the Live Art Digital Agency in London. So everybody, let's welcome Miss Nerisa del Carmen Guevara.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Am I good? Thank you for inviting me to this event. And uh, I know, right? There is a whole lot that us as humans about what is happening to women and mining. So as a woman, as a queer woman, um, with a poet's voice, I have written some poems about the environment I would like to share with you. So the first one is called uh, Arctocephalus gazella, which is actually the scientific name of the seals. And I'd like to share this poem with you, especially I think it's that we are confined in particular spaces, and these spaces make us lose connection. So Cephalus, everything on this earth seeks connection, always craning their necks toward warm light, or toward sucker that drives one to sea like a seal, to some violent need from peace, into the foam with other seals, into a shoal of small fish. Beautiful liquid eyes, silver, life bodies, bite, kill, swallow, roll in the heat of blood. Satiated only in seasons, only when the prey passes too close to the shore, because there is no scent of hunter in the water. Only the smell of clean, cool stones rippling underneath ice. How are we to know, sunning on the surface, peaceful in the tourist eyes on that boat, in perfect gentleness, that hunger hurts, that hunger kills everything in its path? Thank you. My next poem is called Chicken Little. You probably recognize it from a particular folk tale. Chicken Little. Shelter is one's hands over one's head, the rain seeping through everything. What changes the landscape of our lives? Invisible things in the air can kill. There are chasms where once stood hills. What crumbles to dust aside from the limestone rubble of a church that stood by a tree? Everything. It is no light matter to be disowned by the very ground that held you up. It is no light matter, the ground, the trees, the ocean's froth. It is no light matter the cliffs, the highways, the clouds over the sugarcane fields. It is no light matter the shrimp jumping in the fisheries, their golden sheen on the brown water. It is no light matter the plaza, the cathedral on the tip of its tongue, Buang, swimming naked in the fountain, dreaming of God. It is no light matter the hot springs in Mambukal and their sulfur ghosts. It is no light matter the waterfalls and their eternal freshwater longing. It is no light matter the lightness of salt on the breeze blowing into everything, and the taste shattering the world as you know it. It is no light matter the house, the pelota courts, mother in her white skirt, mother of one and one to come, not too old, not too young. It is no light matter, Yaya speaking in tongues, and the aswang sitting on the coconut tree in the front garden grinning. It is no light matter, love and grief. It is no light matter the way the blue sky remains blue while the birds are flying, and then the ground gives up on the world, groans, gives up, shifts to its side, like a father that does not want to be bothered in his sleep, not even by a small hand, with a fleshy flower from the yard. Father, do not turn your back on me. Wake up. The sky is falling, little chick. The sky is falling. Thank you. Because of this pandemic, I noticed, and because we were given this particular imposition on our bodies called physical distancing, uh, I have I started realizing more about how the poem has to breathe even more between spaces to prevent some kind of anxiety. So this last poem I'm going to read is called Natural Disasters, and it is filled with these spaces. Natural disasters. A wall of wind from across the globe. How does it begin? The origin of doom? Butterfly wing gathered from a stream, fin of careless fish, God. 2. A typhoon is churning out there. Today is stunning with its long sunlight lashes. Grief feels like this all the time. Typhoon in the distance, this city in perfect summer. What is destruction? There, there. 3. Out there, something is happening, sailing over the wind. The quiet has a shimmer. The open sea is a gateway between heaven and earth. Four, what did the beach look like when love ended? Were the plates still on the table? Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Nerisa. Thank you very much for a very lovely performance. At kung may tanong po tayo para kay Ma'am Nerisa, wag po tayong mahiya na ilagay ito sa ating comment section ng aming FB page, SOS-Yamang Bayan Network. At kung meron din po kayong extrang mga segundo, pwede nyo rin pong pirmahan ang aming petition para ipasa ang Alternative Minerals Management Bill. So may sign-up section lamang po na aming FB page. So after a very powerful yet very serene performance from Ma'am Nerisa, narito po muli si Miss Carla Nicoyco, second time with us. Thank you very much, Carla, for gracing us again with your presence. No, Carla is, sa mga hindi pa nakakapanood kay Carla dun sa una naming episode, Carla is a part of White Wall Poetry, spoken word group formed in 2015. And ang sabi nila, a group organizing monthly poetry shows. She is also part of Bahaghari, a militant and nationalist organization of LGBTQ+. Her poems have been printed on the first Journal of Women Create, the first Bukang Bibig anthology, the auditory feature of Cha, an Asian literary journal, and volume 5 of Resbak Zine. She was also part of the Filipino contingent for Lit Up Asia Pacific Festival in 2018, which was held in Singapore. Everybody, please welcome again, Ms. Carla Nicoyco.
Thank you, Ms. Jan, sa iyong introduction. So bago ako magsimula, I'd like to invite everyone who's watching to come out and march with us for a Pride protest happening tomorrow, June 26, 10 a.m. sa Moraita. So come as you are and bring your panawagan. Ayun. So I worked with LRC before on a project and I was assigned Derillo. So this poem I wrote for the people of Derillo. Okay. I wasn't there when the dinosaurs walked the earth. I'm sure the Lord never thought about me when he made an asteroid fall from space like manna from heaven, but even then, it was all according to plan. 7 million years of human evolution after, we're on a speeding train to an irreversible disaster. One day, God said, what the hell happened to Earth? He made a great flood, something no Noah can wrap his head around, but that great flood drained away. But I'm sorry, Father, you haven't seen the holes drilled by Oceana Gold in the Derillo. God, this is the new millennium. We have mechanical gold diggers walking the earth now. Mining drills burrow the earth's core for that ore. We have earth movers literally moving the land. Communities can now be displaced. What once were levels of rice paddies are now barren rock. The earth constantly rumbles. These vibrations remind the people that their land is being cut open. Rivers that once watered the fields are now brown with disease, and air that is meant to be inhaled now choke their lungs instead. From farm workers, we now have mine workers living on 50 pesos an hour. We were once told that we can't move mountains, but we can mine them and make them disappear, fracture these rocks, suck the earth dry. There was once Dinkiti. These machines don't know that the very land they're breaking is the very pulse of the Derillo. OceanaGold's right to operate is a license to kill. Land means money, but it means life first and foremost. What is 25 years to a cycle of birth and rebirth every harvest time? The Igorot know that displacement is still a valid way to live. But where will they go when whenever they go, they are met with steel and blasting tools? But they still stand their ground, feet firmly on wheezing land, living flesh versus steel and oil. We stand with them. OceanaGold never had any right to this piece of land. We stand with them. When no man, no longer walks the earth, and machines drain the land for the benefit of the few. No asteroid, no flood can heal these wounds. Thank you.
Maraming salamat ulit, Carla, for a wonderful performance. Now, bago tayo pumunta sa ating question and answer, pagbati po muna sa ating mga manonood, mga ka-nature, good evening ulit. Salamat po sa pagsama na sa amin ulit for our episode 3. Maraming salamat at andyan pa rin po kayo at nanunood at sumusubaybay. Pagbati po para po mula po ito kay Che, sa ating kasamang Che, ka-nature sis Che. Pagbati daw kay Miss Maina ng NTFP EP at kay sana tama ang pronunciation ko, Miss Che, Vaishnavi ng Daatri from India. So hi daw po everybody. Hi from Miss Che to Vaishnavi of Daatri, India, and then Maina of NTFP EP. Hello daw po sabi ni Miss Che. And then this message is for Miss Nerisa about your performance a while ago, ma'am. So somebody quoted a part of your performance, and the taste shattering the world as you know it. And then he quoted and he said, wow. This was from S. Roderick Rojas Chua. So ma'am Nerisa, if you have time, you can go to our Facebook page and say hello to one of your fan, I think. Hello to the following, Ms. Farah Joshua Sevilla, Norly Mercado, Jobs Hata. Mga hindi ko to kilala. Jobs Hata. Parang hindi ko to makilala eh. Hirapan ako i-pronounce yung mga pangalan. Joe Villanueva. Ito hindi ko talaga to kilala. Jing Barrios, A. Celeste, Hayes Bermejo, S. Roderick Ross Chua. And then, sabi po ni, ito para kay Carla. Carla, nandiyan ka ba? Sabi ni S. Roderick Rojas, so much power in that poem, Carla. Maraming salamat. So if you have time, visit our webpage and you can personally thank these people who are really astounded by your performance, Miss Carla and Miss Nerisa. Okay. Kung may tanong po kayo, huwag po kayong mahiya na isulat ito sa comment section ng aming Facebook page. Thank you very much for being with us again. So may question and answer portion na po tayo, mga moms, mga ka-nature. So ang unang tanong po natin ay para kay Miss Che, kasi kanina napakaganda ng mga share niya experiences about women in mining. Ang tanong lang naman natin, napakasimple, ano yung isa sa mga remarkable experiences mo in one of your advocacy campaigns or maybe a site visit, community visit, na hanggang ngayon, it really inspires you and really makes you believe sa power nga ng mga kababaihan. Very short story kung meron kang may share, Miss Che.
Actually, mahirap pumili ng isa. Sa totoo lang. To be honest, it is so hard to choose because I am so inspired by the courage of these women. But if I may share, actually one that is really inspiring me so much is the women from Derillo, yung poem ni Carla na sinulat niya, no? The Bileg, Tagiti, they are Tuwali women. It's a women's organization based in Derillo. They are actually womaning, hindi manning the barricade. They are womaning the barricade right now because since the Oceana Gold mining permit expired, the community really is trying to stop the entry of any vehicles or anything that could enable the operation of Oceana Gold. So yun pong kanilang barricade ngayon ay binabantayan ng mga kababaihan. So, I was so inspired when I was there. Grabe, sa lamig ng Derillo, kasi ito ay nasa Nueva Vizcaya, nandun sila. At sa dami ng kanilang gawain bilang mga nanay, mga ate, nandun pa rin sila to woman the barricade. And also one thing lang din na i-add ko, the women in Masbate also, they are shell gatherers, and since they don't anlayo ng Masbate, they feel like there's nobody who can hear them, but they took it upon themselves to write like a diary and of stories of their struggles on mining. And these stories are actually we actually use these stories para i-share sa ibang mga communities na mga kababaihan. Natatakot din kasi sila to show their faces, but by writing, for Carla and Miss Nerisa, in Wama also, if I may share with you, medyo maganda yung poetry reading dito, no? Kasi sa Wama, isa din pong na narinig kong, nai-inspire ako. One way for the women in the mining communities to really help themselves survive emotionally, to deal with their mental health, is to write poems. Especially in India, they are so into poetry, like they can, like whenever we have a skill share, and then while listening to the stories of other women from other countries, they would instantly write poems. And then during breaks, they would read it and would dedicate these poems to this woman from another community. And it's really inspiring. It's their one way of sharing solidarity with others. So yeah.
Maraming salamat, Che. Thank you. Oo nga, tama ka naman. Gusto ko yung word na womaning. Kasi ang language talaga, may kaya idikta ang inclusion and all eh. Pero magandang buti naman at nagkaroon ng mga ganyang moves. Merong message sa'yo, Che, si Aiza Palm. What she said, or he said maybe, amazing daw, Che. Pakibati naman si Aiza Palm. Hi!
Hi!
Baka may gusto kang batiin mga kaibigan natin na nanonood ngayong gabi. Meron ba?
Actually, supportive ang aking family. Nandiyan ang aking mga kapamilya. Totoong kapamilya, walang kinalaman to sa ano. But they are here.
Ayan, oo naman, 'di ba? Pero well, ang susunod nating tanong na gusto ko sanang ibigay kay Miss Nerisa, kung naririnig niya ako. Miss Nerisa, itatanong lang po namin yung process ninyo about creating such impactful pieces, like yung lalo na yung pangalawang binasa po ninyo about the folktale. Do you mind sharing with us how were you able to come up with a very interesting piece? I mean, of course, you're seasoned na po, pero siguro yung mga nanonood nating mga kaibigan na medyo interested po sa works ninyo, can you share it with us? Baka wala si Miss Nerisa or baka mahina ang signal. So okay lang ba kay Carla muna tayo? Carla, okay ka lang? Okay lang. Ayun na si Miss Nerisa. Yes, please, ma'am.
Ayan,
Hi,
may
hi.
gusto.
Sorry. Connection problem.
It's okay po, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. Were you able to hear my question po about your process?
Hello, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Because a lot
I
of
didn't
people,
hear
yeah. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Because a lot of people were really amazed by your performance, especially the second piece that you've read. Do you mind sharing with us how do you do this? How do you create such an impactful pieces, ma'am? Just I mean, for the benefit of those people who are very much interested in your works.
I feel when I write poetry, because my roots are in performance and in spoken word, I'm very my work is trance-like, to say the least. Parang when I'm in a particular language, a particular vision, I barrel through to the end. And that's how I create. I hold on to an image and I won't let it go till it lets go of me. So that's how I write.
That is I think that is the right word to describe your performance, ma'am. Trans-like. Because while you were performing, we were actually like just watching you at the edge of our seat and, waiting for something to happen. We didn't even ask, is she finished, is she not? But it's like waiting for something to happen. It's really, really impressive po. Thank you very much for gracing us with your
Thank you.
with your performance, ma'am. Thank you very much. SOS-Yamang Bayan Network is very very appreciative of this effort of yours. Ngayon punta po tayo sa mas batang henerasyon. Ayan, si Carla sa pangalawang pagkakataon. Carla, noong nakaraan hindi ko ito naitanong sa'yo eh. Yung tungkol dito sa iyong piece about Didipio. Diba? Why did you, I mean, alam natin bakit Didipio ang pinili mo, pero why this kind of style? Bakit ganitong style ang inadapt? Which is because when you were describing your piece, it was a little bit it's not really violent, but it's not very easy to envision. So pwede mo ba ipaliwanag sa amin ang yung style?
Oh, okay. Actually, parang wala akong set na style. Ang gusto ko lang sigurong ma-achieve sa pag-distort ng images ay you take stereotypes or cliches and you tweak it a bit so it becomes something different. So one example is that line on Gold Diggers. When you think of a gold digger, you think of a woman, di ba? Parang ganyan tayo sa isang patriarchal na lipunan eh. But it's also in the same patriarchal and capitalist society na literal na gold digger. Kasi sa konteksto ng Didipio, no? Actual na blasting tool, actual na machine. So I was trying to go for that. Yung paghiwalay ng common images sa word. So may ano pa dyan, jargon pero di ko na sasabihin. So bakit ganitong style, no? Ano din, sa pag-aaral ko, sa nabasa kong document about the DPO at sa mga alam ko about Indigenous culture, importante yung cycle, no? Sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na buhay at sa kanilang survival. At yun yung mismong buhay ng cycle, yung cycle na yan mismo ang winawasak din ng invasion ng development aggression, ng mining, no? Yung pag-invade ng mining sa community nila. So hindi lang buhay mismo, ano rin, kultura nila sa community. And well, I wanted to point that out din sa pyesa. Sana successful. Ayun. Yun
It was.
lang.
Wala kang style pero it really hit the spot. It was very clear, it was very visual, napakaganda. Nakakagulat na para sa edad mo, napakalalim at parang may mga pang-idaran ko na yung mga lingwahe na ginamit mo. Napakaganda. Sana ipagpatuloy mo pa ang iyong mga ginagawa, Carla. Meron lang akong babasahing comment at saka gusto ko din hingin yung opinion ni Che about this comment. Ito ay galing kay Mr. Kiko Pasensya. Parang hindi ko rin na naman to kilala, di ba? Sabi niya, maganda rin po na maipakita sa mga minahan ng yung mga alternatives. Tama naman yon. For example daw, ilang organized women's group sa Manikani at Humonhon Island ay minamaximize ang potential ng natitirang land area na hindi pa saklaw na MPSA. Mayroon silang sinimulang livelihood projects ng pandan weaving. Aba, maganda ito Calamansi soap, maganda rin. Calamansi soap at juice. Naging daan din po ito para sa pag-network ng women's group sa iba't ibang organization para sa kanilang advocacy against mining. So, Che, anong masasabi mo dito sa comment ni Mr. Kiko? Pasensya.
Oo. Yeah, actually, I was thinking about sharing also the alternatives. I just missed out on that one. So, oo, narinig ko din yung sa Manikani, but yung ginread natin na si Maina from NTFPEP, actually, they are, through the Gaga project, women from Masbate, those who are affected by a gold mining area there, is also doing alternatives. Nagsimula sila on, it is a fishing village, so therefore meron silang mangrove plantation to show that meron talaga silang ginagawa to protect the environment and also alternative na mga projects. So for now, actually nagsimula sila noon nagtanim sila ng vegetable. Sinira ng mining company but then they're not stopping, and they're starting again for another project. But these, of course, these initiatives are happening in communities who still have a small part of their lands that's left for them. But for some, they cannot do these activities because not only for because of the land, but also for security issues. Because most of these lands, which are already covered by the mining permit of this um, companies, are heavily guarded. So, but yes, I agree na meron din po talagang initiatives, lalo mga kababaihan, to show that there are alternatives other than mining.
Maraming salamat, Che. Oo nga naman, tama din naman yun na dapat din ipakita natin na, hindi mining ang end of it all. Even though maraming pinapromise ng mga mining corporation na to na kung ano-ano, di ba? Well, syempre sa mga taong makakarinig, it's something that is really beneficial to them, where in fact, it's not. So, I'm going to state the obvious. Nakalimutan ko palang sabihin na lahat pala tayo dito ay mga kababaihan. Tamang-tama, mga ka-nature. Taas kamao para sa mga kababaihan. Now, Ma'am Nerisa, meron po ba kayong gustong i-plug na show? Meron po ba kayong libro na paparating? Meron po ba tayong gustong sabihin sa ating mga manonood? Kung saan po namin kayo pwedeng mapanood or masaksihan? Pwedeng mabasa yung mga gawa?
On Saturday, they're teaching a reading by the UP Lilaan, and it's a pride segment. It's called Ganap. So I forget what time it's being launched, but I hope you guys can log on and like the page of the UP Likhaan and see the live show called Ganap. That's the thing that I'm doing. Thank you.
Mga kaibigan, huwag natin kalimutan na i-like ang page ng UP Likhaan para masaksihan natin ang performance ni Ma'am Nerisa. Ma'am Nerisa, sabi po ni Carla ay fan na fan daw po niya kayo. Gustong-gusto daw po niya kayo. So, Carla, meet Ma'am Nerisa, meet Carla. Generations of artists in the house. Maraming salamat sa pagpunta. Carla, meron ka bang gustong i-plug na show? Meron bang paparating, mga dapat mangyari na gusto mong malaman namin?
Thank you. Saludo din po kay Ma'am Che for doing God's work, no? Kailangan malakas ang samahan ng mga kababaihan, no? At ano pa kaya kung natipon ito at na-organize. So, sa poetry side, wala masyado. Medyo mahirap ang buhay ngayong pandemic, at ang pag-organize ng online shows, talaga, kahit isang gabi lang siya, draining din siya sa pang-araw-araw mo ring buhay, no? So, ang ipa-plug ko lang ay simple. Yung bukas, may kilos protesta. Ngayon ay Pride Month, at tayong mga LGBT ay hindi lang uupo at hihintay na gumuho ang mundo, no? So, rest back pa habang pwede. So, kung kaya niyong sumama, no, mag-mask, magdala ng alcohol, at pinaka-importante, magdala ng panawagan, no? I-junk yung terror bill. So, bukas, kita tayo sa 10 a.m. sa Moraita. Pwede niyong i-like ang Bahaghari, no? Andun yung page, at kung wala kayong kasama, mag-message lang kayo sa page para, ayun, mapunta kayo sa grupo. So, ayun lang. Rally.
Maraming salamat, Carla. So, kita-kits tomorrow. At syempre, Miss Che, meron ba kaming dapat na malaman ng mga kaganapan mula sa LILAK? At kung halimbawa gusto po namin ma-involve sa advocacy ng LILAK, saan po kaya kami pwedeng pumunta? Or meron po ba kaming dapat gawin, tawagan, kilalanin?
Sige, as of this moment, in the midst of COVID-19, meron pong ginawa ang LILAK na isang relief ops, our own version. We call it babayanihan. So babayanihan, babayanihan ng mga kababaihan. where we are actually we will be glad to receive donations from anyone. Please check out our LILAK page. Just type LILAK Purple Action for Indigenous Women's Rights, or our Facebook page, Katutubong Lilak. May nandun po yung mga ways where you can donate. The proceeds po nito ay pupunta po sa mga indigenous communities na sa ngayon po ay talagang hirap na hirap dahil sa COVID-19, because they are not allowed to go to their farms, to go out of their communities. The difference about this is that since we cannot go to their communities, this is a community-led relief operations. What we can do, we will just send money to our community, Indigenous women community focal person, and then they would be the one who would facilitate the relief operation. So we nasa relief operation, medyo tapos na kami sa relief operations, and now we are inviting everyone to help us on the recovery stage, because talagang this is a different kind of disaster that the communities experience. So just please check out po yung aming LILAK page for how you can donate.
Ayan, mga ka-nature, puntahan po natin ang page ng LILAK, at kung nandun na rin naman po tayo, ay i-like na rin po natin para malaman natin ang mga updates sa kanilang mga kaganapan. At kung gusto nating makatulong sa kanilang advocacy, you feel strongly about their advocacy, wala naman pong nagbabawal sa inyo na i-follow sila. Muli po, magandang gabi. Ito po ulit si Jen, si ka-nature Jen. And unfortunately, we have to end the show. I know, right? Nature Matter discusses burning environmental issues of the day and what ordinary citizens can do about them. I Know Right is brought to you by SOS-Yamang Bayan Network and the Legal Rights and Natural Resources Center. Mga ka-nature, episode 4, wag po natin kalimutan, Thursday uli, alas 6, at maraming salamat Carla, Che, and Ma'am Nerisa. Magandang gabi. Bye! Thank you!